And I'm going to start by saying, okay, what did you learn about chapter 9? Blank sheet here, right? This is one of those, if we were in a classroom, I would leave and say, what did you just learn from the videos of chapter 9? Throw it up on the board. I'll be back in 5 minutes and see what you actually learned. What did you do in chapter 9? And don't say pointers, because we already know what pointers. Yeah, it's pointers on there. Yeah. Give me some symbols. Give me some symbols of value. Go ahead, Ash.
There's the asterisk.
The asterisk. Yeah. Is there another one?
There's also like the and operator.
The ampersand. Right.
Yep.
The ampersand. All right. So that's huge. That's huge. The asterisk has two uses. What were the two uses?
It passes instead of it passes like a pointer to the location. Is it pointer to location in memory of whatever that variable is, I think?
Yeah, we're starting to get to this whole big deal where we need addresses, right? We need to know addresses of places, and pointers are going to help us with that. The first one, before we get into the second one, which was just mentioned, the asterisk is used to define a pointer. Give me an example. Three-letter word starts with I.
And
Ink,
uh
yeah, ink,
and then
asterisk,
asterisk. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. This says pointer can hold an address. This says pointer can hold an address. The second use, and I'm going to put just a word there, dereferences. I don't know if I spelled that right or not. It dereferences. So if I had int x and well, we'll talk about this in a minute. Dereferencing, but in layman's term, it lets me go to a memory location and change the value that's there. Ampersand. What does the ampersand do? So, for those of you that do watch the videos, do you make notes as well while you're going through? I'm just curious. So, back
It
when I go ahead,
depends on the topic.
yeah. So, when I teach 121, so this is the first time I've done this flipped classroom where you watch the videos at your speed and pace, and then we come in and talk about it. And it's a little bit, well, we're working on it. We're trying to get it better. But yeah, this is the address operator. So those are the two big ones. And for those of you that are going on to 162, this stuff is huge. CPS 162, big chapter 9. We need to understand it. We do it so much in 162. All right. So let's just go through here real quick. Addresses. Addresses are going to have hexadecimal involved in it sometimes. And you're going to see where it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But instead of 10, it was the A. Instead of 11, it was B because it's based on a 16 number. And, the whole 16 equals 2 to the fourth power. Everything is base twos. Pointer variables. Well, first of all, an array name holds the address. An array name holds an address. The subscript after tells me what location to go to. We have reference variables, and we're going to create our own. So you should have seen all of these da 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 as you went through. Down here's a quick example of declaring a pointer, and this becomes big for those of you using bloodshed, you need null or zero. Zero works great to represent null. Again, that zero is ASCII zero. That zero is false. That zero is null. All of those things come into play. If I come down here, you can also change the compiler setting. Yes, I just never got to it. But thank you. I'll look into it. Making a note to myself. I remember it and then I forget to do it and then I remember it and yeah. Here's an example. I'm going to pass in donut and yeah, all of a sudden I see this ampersand. The address is what's coming in. So what's the real benefit? Well, down here again, you can go to a location when you just pass the address in and make changes and they stick. When it returns, it doesn't send the address. And one of the ways to do it was that asterisk, and that's the whole dereferencing or letting us get the value. So again, I'm hoping that you went through some things to look at. Here's an array called integer or of integers called numbers. Asterisk number is the same as number sub zero. Numbers is the address. This is the same as number sub one. All of that was in the code listings, and been checking my email and didn't have many questions for that. Do 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 do. What am I looking for? Do 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 do. Yeah, down here we talked briefly about comparing pointers, less than, greater than, yada yada yada. Trying to skip through this, but I need to just slow down. Somebody was just about to tell me to slow down, right? Pointers as parameters. I want to pass in an address. Here's an example with arrays. And as you went through this chapter, you saw a lot of comparisons between arrays and pointers. So here I'm passing in an array. Here I'm passing in an address. Okay. Several different things all going. So this is my prototype. This is my actual call. These are my arguments. This is the heading for my function. I'm bringing in an integer array. You notice I'm passing in values, which is just the address. So if you watch the videos, the end of the first one said something about writing a program, blah, 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 using arrays. That's all I wanted you to do was use arrays. The reason was I wanted you to think how you would solve the problem with arrays. What we're going to do today is take a look at that same problem, but this time you're going to do it with pointers. Okay. Instead of passing in, we're going to pass in an address. So in my prototype, I simply put an asterisk. And I found before that folks doing this the first time that don't use their book spend a whole lot of wasted time guessing. Instead of saying I'm passing in an integer array, which really is an address, I'm passing in an address. Same thing here in my parameter list, or excuse me, in my actual call. These are my arguments. And instead of int square brackets, int array, and giving it a name, I give it a name this way. So this doesn't seem very relevant right now because I have this and I know how to do that with arrays. But we need to start practicing more and more with pointers. Is everybody with me? Yeah. Okay. Because I kind of slopped through that, and I probably may have confused somebody in the process. Was not very good by me. I don't even know if I'm going to post this video. It's bad. What are we going to do today? Down here, number 2. I'm on page 553. I'm looking at number 2. All right, write a program that dynamically allocates an array large enough to hold a defined number of scores. Once all the scores are entered, the array should be passed to a function that sorts them, then calculates the average, and then displays the sorted list and the average. Okay, so writing this with arrays would be good. It would be easy. Wouldn't be too bad. Now, what if I wanted to use pointers instead? Well, that's where this is all going to change. So, how would I write this with arrays? Let's see. The first thing I might do is come over here. I might say, I might ask number of scores. How many scores are there? Second thing I might do is define my array. Based on how many scores there are. For those of you that had me for 121, the last program, you had to open a file, go through and count how many items there were, close the file, then you initialized the array, then you reopened the file, and you were able to read everything into the array. That way we had an idea of, do I have enough memory? Am I wasting memory? So we're going to ask the user how many scores they'd like. We're going to define an array size. What would we be doing next? Good. Read in scores. What would we do next? It asks us to sort the scores. Then it asks us to calculate that.
Display.
I'm
Oh,
sorry?
calculate and then display
Yeah, thank you. And then
with
finally
headings.
display scores and average. Okay, that's really quick pseudocode. Really quick pseudocode. All right, tell me what should be functions. What should be a function here?
So, um, the sort scores that
Yep,
could be a function.
that would be a function. We could just call it sort.
Asking the number of scores could be a function if you wanted to add stuff like input validate.
Yep, very good.
Also, the display could also be a function.
Heck, most of this is functions. That's the number of scores. Good. Like you said, there could be more to it than just a simple display. You could be doing input validation of negatives and so on and so on. For this problem, I put do not worry about input validation. We should have practiced that enough. Once I get a value back, I do this and on and on and on. Okay. Now, I want all of these to be void functions. We're passing addresses in, we can work with things as far as being addresses. Agree? Should we create the main? Somebody say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, good. All right, so we would all have the same name. First thing I want to do is ask the number of scores. Here's my paper. Give me a prototype for this.
You probably void uh score or ask scores or get scores. Um, and then you could pass in the array and
We don't know that.
the array
First of all,
size. Oh,
we wanted to
oh,
know
we,
how many scores. So maybe we shouldn't call this
uh,
scores. Maybe we should call,
oh, determine determine score
uh,
number maybe score total.
how about num scores?
That works.
Okay. And again, this is just our prototypes. Num scores. Now, what would I put after this if I want to have a value going in, but when it comes back, I'm not. This is a void method. So num scores followed by what? Now you can guess. I'm flipping through my book on. Pretty sure I saw this in a code listing. How would I pass it in so that I can get a number back? And I kind of remember doing that. And I'm flipping and I'm flopping. And what you got?
So like the scores, the design for is gonna be double, right?
It's going to be int. We're going to make it
And
an
okay,
int. And what would I
so
put up here after this?
so like are you gonna
Uh, could you not just go int and then are we using a pointer?
Int asterisk.
Uh,
Int
uh,
asterisk. Hey, Slim.
yeah.
Int asterisk. This is saying I'm going to pass in an address for an integer. Once I'm there, that's okay. I can make changes and the address goes back. So the values that I want are going to be from there. Okay. Again, that's the prototype. What would it look like down when I make a call? So if these are going to be my prototypes up here. Now I'm actually in the main and I'm going num scores, what I put in parentheses to go with it. I'm going to have a variable called count. I'm sending the address over. I promised I would send the address over. So I'm sending the address over. Void num scores int asterisk num. Am I cheating? You bet your Bippy. I'm looking at program 911 on page 522. What? That's right. Passing a variable in by the address. Hey, I'm going to pass the address. Send in the address of account. It's going to go there. Now I can please input num equals please input blah 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 blah. Boom 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 boom
Is
boom. Yep.
in num scores, is that a and sign?
This is ampersand.
I don't
That's
remember. I didn't. Yeah.
that's the ampersand. Okay.
Okay.
Let me make some notes in red. This means it's going to be a pointer variable. It's going to be a pointer. Oh, it's going to be a pointer variable. I'm sending a value. I want to work at a location that's going to store an integer. I'm going to be sending in the address. Here's where I find the address. So I have count up here, yada, 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 yada. Here is me receiving the pointer value to that address. Okay? Is that a big help or not? Okay. The next thing we said, define the array size. Yeah, well, we can define the array on our own if we're working with the array. Read in scores. I'm thinking we're going to do what do you want to call it? Fill array, get scores. Good. I like fill array. Oh boy. Fill array. Yeah. I'm going to need to send in the array and I'm going to need to send in a size. So up in my prototypes, I don't know. Is it in the book? I don't know. You have to tell me. Man, you're no fun. I know, right? What would I put here?
Uh,
Go ahead. What would I normally put for an
yeah,
int?
where you're filling it, you're putting the array, you're putting the array there, right?
Yeah,
So
I'm
would it be
letting
the
it,
little brackets?
yes, the square brackets. I'm saying, hey, I'm passing in an integer array. This is still working with prototypes. Second thing I'm going to need to send in is the size. Okay. Down here, when I would actually call it, I would we're gonna call our array scores. Down here, when I call it, I'm gonna say fill array, parentheses. Tell me exactly what I should be putting in here.
Scores
Yes, scores.
and then size,
And what's the other thing?
the size of scores.
Right. And I think that's what we have up here under the word counts. So we're passing that in. Down here, I have void, fill array. And remember, this is an address. Scores is an address. So I can go make changes inside of that array and they stick because the address doesn't. So what would be in fill array? What would go here?
The int with the
Yeah.
little brackets.
Or do I need to give it a name? This is my actual function heading.
Oh, you would have to give it a name. So
Go square brackets.
yeah.
Int num. Okay, that's all arrays. This second one we just worked on, this second function. So I kind of have an idea of, this is new. This was new, and I'm just working on sending a location in by the address so I can make changes. This is old school. When I was working with arrays, this is how I laid it out. Now, so this was an arrays, this was arrays, this is arrays. Now that you have that, I could send you back and you could write the program with arrays, and come up with the last couple of functions, and we'd be all happy. But today's lesson was more about working with pointers. So what would be the new fill array that I would use if I was using pointers? So what would I put in place of int square brackets?
int asterisk int
Int,
asterisk
int, just an asterisk? Keep talking to me. We're doing well.
and then the size of the array.
And then another int. Okay. So now we have this instead of what you saw up above. When I actually call it in my name, maybe fill array is not working so well because we're not filling an array anymore. What would go here?
Scores and then count.
Scores and count. So that's the same. And what would my function heading look like? Void, fill, array.
Int star go and then int num.
Okay. And again, this is a pointer to an address. This is a pointer to an address. Perfect. All right. So now I have a little bit of an idea of what I want to do. So I'm going to come back and we are going to do a main that says num scores int asterisk. It's my prototype. Let's just actually do the main. Let's do this. Num scores. I want to send in whatever that count was, or I'm sending in count so I can get that changed. Agreed? Fill. Fill. Do we still just want to call it array since we're not really using array? Fill array. We said we're going to send in scores and count. What else do we have? Sort. We're going to send in scores and count. Alc av. We're going to send in scores and we're going to send in count. And we are going to have average. And then display. Scores. Count. Average. Now, why did I need an ampersand for average and not for scores? What was scores? The name of the array. The name of an array is an address. Once I start putting subscripts, it's a little different. So this is actually a pointer to an address. This is a pointer to an address. Okay? Questions? Questions? Started slow. Hopefully I unconfused you with working with pointers and how these are addresses and when I have a variable versus when I have an array. No questions? All right, I'm going to put you in groups. This is what I want you to do.